Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Great to have you with us on the program today. Our special guest, Jack Daly, author of Hyper Sales Growth, the #1 selling business book on Amazon in 7 countries. He's an expert in sales and sales management, inspiring audiences to take action on customer loyalty and personal motivation through explosive keynote and general session performances. He draws upon decades of business experience with several successful stints as the CEO of fast-growing companies. Jack has a bachelor's degree in accounting, an MBA, was a U.S. Army captain, and an accomplished author with audio and DVD programs. All this information at Jack's website, jackdaly.net. Daly is D-A-L-Y, and he's with us on This Week in America. Jack, excited about having you on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Rick, I am thrilled to be here. I'm looking forward to the time we spend together here.
Well, there's so many things to talk about. I don't want to go back and talk about this fascination that you had at an early age with business and success and drawing yourself near to successful people. Age 12, you have a paper route. Not unusual. A lot of people have paper routes, but you really grew that. Age 13, you're a caddy. Not because you love the golf course, but because you love the people that came to the country club. Talk about the fascination you had at an early time with business, and especially when you were caddying, because you were like, a sponge working with these business executives and trying to find out what made them successful.
Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit and talk about the newspaper boy and flow right into the caddy.
Okay.
So I took a newspaper route, Rick, of 32 customers off of a kid that had it before me, and a year later had 275 customers. This was in the Northeast, where the weather is not idyllic for delivering newspapers.
Yes.
And I'm working through trying to figure out how can I still make the money but not do as much of the work. And I saw an opportunity where I could divide the route up amongst 5 11-year-olds, because you had to be 12 to have a newspaper route, and they would be happy. We split the money 50-50. I kept the tips, and in effect, they did all the work and I kept 70% of the money. That was my first entrepreneurial moment. Then I was freed up to go and work as a caddy at a country club. And after I was there for about 10 days, this is what came to me. I'm here caddying for people during the week. I'm caddying for the same ones on the weekend. They're driving very nice cars, recent vintage, and living in big homes. In other words, very successful people. And if I tried to knock on their door at 13 years old and say, hey, could you tell me how to be more successful when I grow up? I don't think I would get the audience. But they came to my office, in effect, 18 holes, side by side. And as we walked the golf course, I would just pummel them with a series of questions about how did they become successful and what advice would they give for a 13-year-old.
So basically, that was like an MBA before you really had your MBA. I mean, you're still you're 13 years old, just an aspiring teenager at that point, a fledgling teenager, and all of a sudden you're learning all of this from all these people.
Actually, they paid me at the end of the round because I was the caddy carrying their clubs. But when I look back in the rearview mirror of my life, I think I should have paid them, because you're right. I learned more in those sessions that summer than I probably did in many, many of the courses I took in college.
Well, you mentioned you enjoyed being an entrepreneur. At an early age, you were trying to figure out how to do that. I mentioned the background, a very successful accounting career. You earned your MBA. Yet you were at the core of 6 startup companies, 2 that sold to Wall Street firms. What is it? What's the draw with the entrepreneurship that even though you were successful with an established company, Arthur Andersen, that you decided to start new companies? What's the thrill of a startup for you?
Well, again, I'm going to back up. The anomaly is actually the Arthur Andersen. When I interviewed these successful people on the golf course, one of the messages that was clear to me was that if you wanted to be a successful business owner, if you wanted to be an entrepreneur that actually was successful, you needed to understand how the numbers work. So I went to school and became an accountant, and the normal route for an accountant is when you graduate to go work back then for something called the Big 8, which was the Big 8 accounting firms in the world. And I chose Arthur Andersen. I never really aspired to be an accountant. I actually wanted to be an entrepreneur, but it gave me a great foundation from which to build my businesses. Then I went on, as you said, to build 6 companies into national platforms from a blank sheet of paper. What I enjoy the most, to get to your question, is taking that blank sheet of paper and visualizing something that will work in the marketplace, fill a need, be better than my competitors, and then convince other people to join me, and then we build it. I love the 12 balls up in the air simultaneously and trying to make sure that none of them fall to the ground. Once a company gets to a certain level, whether that's numbers of offices or revenue size or a number of employees, once it gets to a certain level where there's a lot of sameness from day to day, we're talking about incremental growth, that's probably better suited to a different type of person because that's become more static and more normal. I love the challenge, the change, the craziness, and that's what an entrepreneur is.
You're listening to This Week in America, our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Our guest on the program is Jack Daly, prolific best-selling author, renowned professional speaker, sales management expert. His website is Jack Daly. That's DALY.net. You can link onto it directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Besides the book, and the book is excellent, we'll be talking about some of the segments from Hyper Sales Growth. That's the number one selling book on Amazon in 7 countries. Information there on the workshops that Jack conducts, the keynote speakers. And one thing, you mentioned vision before, and let's talk a little bit about the Ironman accomplishments. And then you said there are a lot of similarities when you went and looked at it between getting ready for Ironman competition and what you did in business. And the number one similarity was vision. And if people are listening and thinking, well, vision sounds good, but I'm probably never going to start my own company. Vision is something what we can all do every day when we get up to try to visualize how our day is going to go.
Absolutely. So I had a vision 31 years ago of becoming an Ironman, and it was stimulated by someone called Julie Moss, who many people have seen on YouTube, crawling across the finish line after leading until the last 50 yards. And she came in second, but she legitimatized this grueling sport. And when I saw her 31 years ago, I said, I wonder if I could do that. And I had a vision of crossing the finish line in Hawaii and hearing the voice of Mike Riley call out, Jack Daly, you are an Ironman. And for all of those years, Rick, I had that clear, crystal clear vision of me doing that. And it was magnetic and compelling. Well, if I flip it over to the business, I've never built a business where it wasn't being built for sale. In other words, every one of my businesses was built to be sold. And before I started building it, I had a clear vision of what it was going to look like. What kind of revenues, what kind of profit, how many offices, whether it was local, whether it was regional, whether it was national, whether it was international, how many employees we were going to have, what kind of profits we were going to have. A clear, magnetic, compelling vision, something that gets people inside the company and outside the company excited about what the company is about.
You know, another one of the similarities you talk about between the Ironman competition and you're an excellent golfer, extreme sports, bungee jumping. I'll get back to that in a second. One of the similarities between that and business is the importance of a coach. And here Jack is 58 years old. You decide to be an Ironman, but part of that whole thing is swimming. You didn't know how to swim, so you had to go get a coach.
Yeah, so at 58, I don't know how to swim, and the Ironman starts with a 2.4 mile deep water ocean swim, and it's on the clock. And so there's two routes that you can do to solve that problem. You can stand on the side of the pool and jump in the water and flail around and stay afloat and sort of make it to the other side of the pool. The problem is that the Ironman is going to be many, many laps in the pool. If it was done in a pool, it would be 160 laps. Well, wouldn't it make more sense to go seek someone out that already knows the techniques and can teach you the techniques, show you the style in which you can compete effectively? Wouldn't that shorten the time frame? Well, that same mentality, Rick, about coaches is what I believe in my personal life, in my business life, and in my sporting endeavors.
You'll find all of this and more at Jack's website, jackdaly, DALY.net. His book is Hyper Sales Growth. It's an excellent book. Information, and you can link on directly to Jack's site at ours, thisweekinamerica.us. One of the keys to your success, and as you're out speaking in the keynote addresses that you give, the seminars that you give literally to thousands of people, and again, you're successful at this because you're street tested. You know exactly what you're talking about when you go into these presentations. But at the forefront is passion. And I can tell that as we're talking, that you're really passionate about what you're doing. In fact, you say if you're not passionate about something, find something else. And in the book, there's a great example, Hyper Sales Growth. You're talking about the 5 o'clock stampede in Toronto. All of a sudden, you think there's like a fire alarm going off in this giant office building. You got literally thousands of people coming out of a building, and you suddenly realize, these are people, it's 10 after 5. They're leaving. Done for the day.
Yeah, what a shame. Everyone has their different beliefs. My belief is we are here on this planet one time. And if you're going to be here one time, what a crime to spend decades doing something for money to pay the bills and responsibility for your spouse, significant other, and family, and you feel stuck in a job that doesn't release your passion. My belief system says that would be a horrible way to spend or waste your life. Why not invest your life in something you're passionate about? And what I have found, Rick, in my life is that whenever I find myself in a place of passion, wow, am I a lot happier. But the other thing that I discovered is all of the people around me are happier as well. And then the bonus, money somehow tracks you down when you're in your place of passion.
The book is called Hyper Sales Growth. Our guest on This Week in America is Jack Daly. His website is jackdaly, DALY.net. Interesting when you talk about, because in the book you say, there's some companies out there, if you walk by at 5 o'clock, you wouldn't know it was 5 o'clock. And you say, culture really separates the good companies from those that come in and try to copy. When you have a successful company, everybody's trying to duplicate that. And what you're saying is so true. They're missing out on the people part of it, and they're missing out on the culture part of that. Name some of the companies that you're really impressed with, because they really get it. When people are there, they're not really working for the company. They're working with the company.
Yeah, so easy to do, Rick. Unfortunately, there aren't many out there. But those that are out there are beating the economy, beating their competitors, recording historic and landmark revenues and profits. Some of those companies, I fly over 200,000 air miles a year. The airline that has it cornered when it comes to culture is Southwest Airlines. The people at Southwest Airlines that work there actually look like they enjoy what they're doing. And it conveys and flows over to the passengers. The rest of the airlines, they look like they're being punished. And you can see it in the faces. You can see it on YouTube. And just punch in Southwest Airlines and you'll crack up at some of the fun things that they're doing there. Another company is Zappos. Richard Branson, for example, at Virgin Airlines. When you say Virgin, and there we are, 300 plus companies all started within my lifetime. And the people there are absolutely having a blast. But Richard Branson, when you talk to him, says, if you get it right with the people, everything else will click together.
It's interesting in the book, and the book is called Hyper Sales Growth, and Jack's an excellent speaker. All that information available at the website, jackdaly.net, DALY, or go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can link on directly. You talk about Netflix and Blockbuster, and people probably listening going, what's a Blockbuster? But trust me, it was a major corporation for a number of years, and how Netflix evolved, and there was some question there with the vacation policy, and basically what now, the policy is if you feel like you need a vacation, take it.
Yeah, you can go on your browser online and just punch in Netflix culture, policy and procedure, and you'll get access to about 120 PowerPoint slides, and they will rock your world. They are very, very, they're cutting edge. You mentioned the vacation policy. I have had clients that I have shared that with that have instituted that policy. What we tend to think is that the employees and people in the company are going to abuse the policy. What happens in reality is they feel so engendered, so much love towards the company that actually the leadership of the company is challenged to get people to take vacation because they're so hardworking and committed to the cause.
You're listening to This Week in America. Jack Daly, our guest on the program, his website, jackdaly.net. Hyper Sales Growth is the book we're talking about. One of the things you talk about as well in terms of the similarities and setting goals is the system of measurement and how important that is, whether it's an athletic achievement you're trying to accomplish or whether it's in business. We need something, pretty much on a daily basis, to measure how far we're coming.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do both sides of the house for us, Rick. On the physical side, on the physical endeavors, if I'm trying to run a marathon, it's 26.2 miles. That whole mental imagery defeats me right there. What I have done, and I've done 69 marathons to date, what I have noticed is that if I run 1 mile 26 times, it's a lot easier. And I will tell you, before I run 1 miles, I will have a set program of how many miles I need to prepare in training week by week and day by day for 4 months prior to coming. And I list what I need to do every single day for 4 months prior to that marathon race, and I record whether I did it or not. Well, on business, if I take a salesperson, if I want to do $30,000 of business in a week, well, I need to know how many outbound calls I need to make, how many inbound calls I need to take, how many face-to-face appointments do I need to make, how many presentations do I need to make, how many network events do I need to do, how many trade shows do I need. There is a wealth of things that if we identify the activities and measure the activities, then the sales that we had targeted will actually take place.
Jack Daly, our guest on the program. The book is Hyper Sales Growth. A lot of great information at the website, jackdaly.net. A couple of minutes left in this program, and we certainly will have Jack back. If you go to the website, there are videos there called Jack Me Up video clips, and there's one that's so important. And you mentioned before how much you travel. You're home one of the rare days you're home. You're thinking, I should exercise, but boy, you can come up with every reason or excuse in the world to skip that. And you're ready to go out and exercise. That is great motivation for all of us, because when we get busy, we're trying to talk ourselves out of something we know deep down that we need to do. How important it is finding that balance and being able to eliminate those excuses that we make.
I think if you're not balanced, you're in trouble. It's called burnout, and there's a lot of challenges, a lot of potholes in our business life, and these challenges come up. I can tell you that if you take care of yourself physically, you're better prepared to take on the challenges. It is not easy to arrive at a hotel at midnight and be getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and realize that you need to find the treadmill in the gym of the hotel for an hour run because you've got a race targeted. But what's interesting about that, Rick, is that when you do that and you accomplish the race, the feeling of success is tremendous, and it gives you gas inside your personal car. And so I say the same thing in terms of our personal life. If you get the things done that you want in your personal life, it will roll over and manifest itself in success in your business life.
Well, and you talk about that. Among the 7 factors, you've got nutrition and fitness, and you say that we take better care of our cars, and every few years we get rid of that car that we've just taken care of. More important, obviously, to us to take care of the car than to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, what are we going to keep a car for? Maybe 5 years, 6 years. We're going to have regular service checkups. If you were to go to my website and look at the tab Life by Design, I post all of my personal goals on there, as well as a report that I provide to what I call the board of directors of my life, who meet with me individually 4 times a year. So that's 20 visits to make sure that I'm doing what I said I was going to do. And you will see on my goals that are on my website, you will see all of my doctor's appointments are scheduled, my dentist, my eye doctor, my general practitioner, all of those things, and they're all measured. Because again, if we take care of this single issue rig, I think that we will have a longer life and a higher quality life.
You know, it's interesting. You've got the board of directors of your life, people that have done it. They've been successful at doing it. You can learn from them. That goes back in the rearview mirror to age 13 when you were doing that on the golf course, when you basically had your border. They just didn't know it. Like you said, at the end of the day, they give you all this wisdom and knowledge, and they give you some money.
Yeah, so you really tied it very well together, Rick. I have 6 coaches on my triathlon Ironman sport. I have a swim coach, a bike coach, a run coach, an overall triathlon coach. I have a strength coach and a nutritionist coach. I have 5 coaches on the personal side of my life, and I also have 3 coaches on my business. And what I say to people is this: who are your mentors? Who are the people that have already blazed the trail that you will fast forward you on your journey, wherever your journey is, which is articulated in your vision?
I love you say, if you have a tombstone, all you want on it is your name and a check mark. And the more you think about that, it's like, yeah, I would like to live my life that I can put a check mark there when it's all over with.
That's the last item on the to-do list. Check that off. Done.
Our guest on the program has been Jack Daly. That's Daly. The website is jackdaly.net. The book we're talking about is Hyper Sales Growth. A lot of great information at the website, jackdaly.net. And, of course, you can get there linking on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Jack, a pleasure to have you on the program. Look forward to having you back. Thank you for sharing time with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, and have a great holiday.
Thank you. You too. You're listening to This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us.